Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of TCG Talk, back today with another video. And in today's video, I have a really special guest, a good friend that you may know as Mortimer on Twitter. I know as Kyle. A good friend, someone who has been playing Dorinthea for a long time, and I wanted to do a deck tech with him on his recent PQ win with Dorinthea. So Kyle, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, talk about how long you've been playing the game, just a little quick synopsis, and we'll get right into the deck.
How you doing, everybody? I'm Kyle. I'm known as Mortimer on Twitter and on the Discord server. Any Discord server, you'll see me on there. Pretty much just yelling at people about Dorinthea or Dromai the entire time. Um, been playing since Tales of Aria was released, and didn't really do much. I was just an average level player, and then I've started taking it more seriously in the past few months. So,
Yeah, he's being a little modest. He's been playing at a pretty high. I mean, I first met you in Dallas at the Bauharden. That was a Blitz event. I was on Axe's Dorinthea, which is actually kind of funny and ironic. And what were you on that event? I totally forgot.
Sai. Sai was my first love in this game. I
Oh
like
yeah,
Dory. But if
Kasai.
we get a
Yeah.
Kasai CC hero, that's where the juice is going to be at.
Oh yeah, Kasai is super fun. Skirmish season's coming up soon. But yeah, so I wanted to bring you on here, kind of talk about the deck. Dorinthea is obviously week one made a pretty big splash. And I would say it's fair to say, not just because we're doing the deck tech, but she's probably the most surprising hero. I think her and Lexi are probably like the two kind of breakouts as far as like overall performance. So kind of go into like why Dorinthea. One, why Dorinthea did you originally go on to Dorinthea way back, when you first started, and then why Dorinthea into this PQ season.
I agree. First of all, like I didn't think Dory was going to do not. I didn't think she was going to do bad because I'm a warrior guy and I always think they're going to do well. But she definitely did more games. She won more than I thought she was going to. They kind of figured out Lexi right before the tournament, right before PQ season started. Lexi kind of got big. Um, but yeah, so my plan going into this PQ was not to play Dorinthea. I've always had her in my back pocket because I always play her. But the plan was to play Dromai because we were expecting a lot of Oldims in my meta. And then I sat down, started writing my deck lists, and there were Phis everywhere. And Phi has trouble racing the Dawnblade, right? You get the counters. If they ever do decide to block, they activate Reprise. And so it can be rough for Phi to play against someone who can race them back. Um, and someone with such a good armor suite. So I kind of panicked at the last minute and just grabbed my Dorinthea stack out of my bag and threw it down, and then happened to win the tournament and top 8 last weekend. So
Yeah, no, the last second deck list change is something I think a lot of people do. I think for you, it probably was better because, like you said, Dorinthea is your main, at least from my knowledge of you anyway. So it's like I was on Azalea this past weekend, but I easily could have just been like, oh, let's play Katsu, and you feel fine, right? It's kind of a similar thing. But the Phi Oldheim kind of dilemma is hard because, like, I feel like those are like arguably the two most represented heroes, and they're completely different. So if you're not playing one of them, then you literally just have to. I've been telling people this PQ season, you basically have to pick a hero, tech for one side of the big meta, and then just hope you don't match up with the other side because you can't really tech for everything, at least in my knowledge. Dorinthea is a little bit more flexible, obviously, with all the 3 blocks, but even then, like, it's very difficult for sure.
the last minute decision, like part of it was because I felt like I could figure out, I could beat Oldims with Dorinthea better than I could Phis with Dromai. Um, and like you'd have to be. I feel like I can get through like everything but the very top level of Olden players.
Mm-hmm.
Where with Dromai, some dude that's been playing the deck for 3 weeks and got his, finally got his equipment ready, can beat me on Dromai. So pivoted to the last second, and I'm super happy that I did. It
Mm-hmm.
felt good to be like on my girl,
Yeah,
playing my girl.
yeah, no, exactly. And I think a lot of people can learn from that in PQ season is like you want to play like your comfort pick. Sometimes playing like, in my opinion, a tier 2 hero that you know inside and out is better than doing a tier 1. Even with like Phi and Katsu, I guarantee I'll place better with Katsu because I just know the hero better. So I agree with you. But one thing I wanted to kind of give people background in is like I know last PQ season you played Dorinthea as well, and you had like a really close final with Josh Lau, which a lot of people know from the car guys. What were kind of like your key learnings from that time frame, and like has the deck changed or evolved in any way, or kind of like what is the deck came to now as opposed to what it was when you first started playing her competitively?
The last PQ season, I got obliterated. I got
Mm-hmm.
destroyed. Road to Nat season, however,
Oh, Road
was when I
Nats. Okay.
started coming into my own, and that's when I played Josh Lau in top two, which
Mm-hmm.
he ended up getting me. He was on Bolton. Um, Back then, I preferred defensive decks, and the deck was more defensive than this is even. Um, like it was pretty much on like as defensive as you can get. Three Oasis, Saints and Fates and all that kind of stuff to try and play with half hands. Dory's pretty good once she gets counters at keeping them with only two cards.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so a lot of what I was doing was just trying to kind of outlast people a little bit, wait till their big threats were gone, and then do what Dorithia does best, just swing with a big sword.
Mm-hmm.
But now she got a lot of cool tools in Dynasty. Iron Song Pride, Puncture, um, Precision Press, they're all very strong cards that push her towards a more aggressive thing. So the deck has definitely evolved more aggressively, which is a little out of my comfort zone, but I know these cards like the back of my hand.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it felt good to mix it up a little bit, but this wasn't my choice of how to play the deck. This was kind of just how Dorinthea is demanding to being played right now.
Okay. That makes sense. Iron Song Prize honestly insane. Depending on like what you get in your hand, because you can easily put like two counters in a turn. It's basically like a mini glistening steel blade. Obviously not quite as powerful, but like the way that card works, especially if your opponent doesn't have very cards left or isn't able or wants to race you, like how quick you can put counters on your Dawn Blade is pretty nuts.
My
Beginning.
peak turn, my peak turn was
Mm-hmm.
I got 5 counters in a single turn. Glistening, 2 hits got me 3 counters, and I played 2 Iron Song Prize. I went from a naked Dawn Blade to swinging for 8 for 1 the next turn.
Yeah, at that point the game's pretty much over unless you're like an Azalea and can somehow get a red ledger to hit. But even then, like you said, I noticed this playing Azalea. I play a couple Dorinthias, like kind of testing is if you get two counters on your Dawnblade, even if I hit you with a red, you can just swing your 5 Dawnblade and out for blood twice, or Iron Song response it. Like it's like it doesn't really because I have to not only hit the red, but then I have to block you next turn to truly get the counters off. So it doesn't even do a whole lot, to be
Counters
honest.
is kind of like the critical point. You get
Mm-hmm.
3 counters, and it's like you need to fix this problem right now, or you're going to lose the game.
Yep, exactly. So we'll get right into the deck. I kind of want to let you drive on this a little bit. Obviously, like up here, we have the pretty standard equipment suite with blade hole, bracers, Providence, Dawnblade, and bolters. But how has having Crown of Providence, that's the first thing I want to get into, how has that affected the deck, if any, being able to cycle that card as opposed to, I'm assuming, just Arcanite Skullcap most of the time is what it used to be?
Block is always nice in Arcanite Skullcap. Not gonna lie, the block's nice, but um, Dorinthea has certain cards that she can get stuck in Arsenal, especially against like no block decks like Phi. Things like Singing Steelblade, right?
Mm-hmm.
They don't activate Reprise, so they're basically dead. If you put that in Arsenal early, it is sitting there the whole game, and you're playing without an Arsenal,
Mm-hmm.
and then you probably lose. So being able to cycle that 5th card is crazy, especially when you can stick whatever you happen to have left in your hand in Arsenal and feel okay doing well with it later, like knowing you're gonna get some value out of it.
Yeah, even something as simple as like an Enlightened Strike, if you have tempo and you just want to get back to having a warrior card in your hand or something, you never know what it could be, but like it seems like it's very useful.
Enlightened
Um,
Strike was easily the worst card in the deck. I did not play it a single time the entire tournament. All I did was block with it.
yeah,
Never used it once. I wish I didn't put it in the deck.
what's the purpose of it? Do you think it's for like the German matchup, or is it just a good value, or how? What was your purpose originally for putting it in?
There was a lot of Oldham and Dramah in my area, and I found out that I was getting a lot of times where they would block out the Dawnblade when I used a guaranteed go again. So I'd use something like Spoils of War that gives it go again no matter what. Um, and then they'd block out the Dawnblade, and my turn would end, and I would be sad. And I said, if we're going aggressive, let's go aggressive. So I put in the big 7 hit and felt good about it. And then I
Sweet.
never used it a single time in the tournament.
Awesome. So yeah, I'll let you drive here. We'll kind of start with your reds or like the overall purpose of the deck, kind of like some key players that you thought was really important, and just kind of go from there. And I'll move as you drive. Just let me know where you want me to go.
start with just the basic reds that aren't the attack actions.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the point of Dorinthea is to swing your Dawn Blade, make it hit twice, and then it gets stronger. You can activate Reprise with cards like Route, cards like Iron Song Response, and smash them in the face as hard as you can. The attack actions that I have for the deck, Command and Conquer, Enlighten Strike, were in Erase Face. Enlighten Strike was useless,
Mm-hmm.
admittedly. Don't run it. Erase Face was good because we have a lot of dash in our area.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty good if it manages to hit an Icelander. It's pretty good. As well as Lexi and as well as Oldhim. And
Mm-hmm.
Ice can be annoying for Dorinthea because with these thicker cost attack reactions like Overpower and Route, as well as trying to pay for Go again and all that stuff, uh, it can be annoying. So turning off a lot of the fusion stuff that they have is quite nice.
Okay.
Um, Command and Conquer is probably the best card in the game.
Yeah.
I don't want to say something needs to be done about this card because it single-handedly won me a invite to the Pro Tour, but it's a very strong card.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up winning with this card. In 3 games, Command and Conquer was the final strike, even with having counters on the Dawnblade.
Mm-hmm.
Multiple times, particularly in the earlier rounds, people would overcommit to blocking the Dawnblade, and then I would just go around it with the Command and Conquer, killing their arsenal. That's also why the blue pummel's on the deck, because
Okay.
they think they're sneaky. They block it Xaxes, and then I go over the top, take a card out of their hand, take their arsenal, and basically it's my turn again. And if I still have counters on Dawnblade, the game is over.
Yeah, it's hard, and we talked about this before we hit record, and then I put it on Twitter as like, what makes this card? Yes, I agree with you. It's the single most powerful card in the game. I don't think anyone could, barring a legendary equipment, I don't think anyone could argue that. But what makes this card truly stupid is Pummel. That those two cards together, it literally, you're basically even at a blue, you're saying I'm hitting you for 7. You can't use defense reactions. So unless you have 3 blocks in your hand, you're pretty much screwed. Is basically the way it looks. And at red, like, you might as well just die. So I agree. But yeah, no. And so you mentioned Icelander. So kind of what were your matchups in the PQ? You don't have to go in direct order unless you want to, but just kind of like who'd you face and kind of how'd you approach it?
So I played all of my Swiss was Fies and Dash,
Oh wow. Okay.
which I'm happy about.
Yeah.
Um, I did lose 2 games in Swiss, both to Fies. One by a player named Amber Z. She's a very strong 5 player from
Oh yeah.
Louisiana.
Mm-hmm.
She went 5-0 in Swiss and beat the brakes off of everybody. It was not close. She destroyed me too.
Mm-hmm.
And then I lost to another 5 player. His name's Brian Basoko. He's from Kayfabe Games. He's on their team. Kayfabe Cards.
Mm-hmm.
Like Flake, Majin Bay, Dalen Mack,
Oh,
those
that
guys.
group. Okay, yeah, talented group there.
So he beat me as well. And then I beat the Phi and all the dashes. So it was quite nice, including a Mechanoid dash. That game was a lot of fun.
Oh
They kind
yeah.
of telegraphed that their last Mechanoid was an Arsenal, and then Command and Conquer Pummel just removed it, and they scooped the game with 34 health left. So
Oh
had
my
some time to
goodness.
go.
Well, yeah. I
It
mean, if
was
all their
still after
mechanoids
that.
out, their whole game plan's pretty much
Yeah, they
done.
had 10 dead cards in their deck.
You're really just
Uh,
a bad dash deck once that goes away. So, like,
right.
yeah, exactly.
Yep. So beat all the dashes, beat the Phis except for those 2. And then I went to top 8, which was an Ice Lexi player named Matt Boudreau. He's a very, very good Ice Lexi player. He top 8'd the Vegas Battle Hardened. He won his PQ last weekend, and he won a Road the Nats. Very solid player, especially on Lexi.
Yeah, he's one of the top Lexi players of my knowledge in the game, personally.
He's
Yeah.
very good.
Mm-hmm.
But I played against him a lot. He's local, and so I know his Ranger tricks.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't work, and I got him. Top 4 was the rematch against Amber Z. And simply put, I got tempo. I got too many counters on my Dawn Blade too fast, and then I took a lot of damage to try and keep it, and I managed to get over the top before she could. It sucked because she's a great player, and I wanted her to win.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna throw it. So
No, for sure.
And then top 2 was against an Icelander player.
Oh, wow. One of your more difficult matchups, or at least one you have to really think through everything, honestly.
I'm not gonna lie, I was terrified. So I was a really good Icelander player. He's only played Icelander since Uprising's release. Technically, he's in Blitz. He's only played Icelander since Everfest's release.
Mm-hmm.
So he's very clean on this hero. But again, I got tempo, and I just kept pressure up. He got some Sync Belows stuck in Arsenal when I had Command and Conquers, and Pummel showed up for me. So it was nice. Most people run Tunic into Icelander.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned earlier that I was playing Dromai, and then I panicked and switched to Dorinthea, and I did not have my Tunic with me. So I just ran Courage of Blade Hold, Refraction Bolters, and AB2, and it was useful. The the 3 block value, because I ended up breaking the Courage of Blade Hold. The 3 block value off of a Fendel's Fighting Spirit was kind of nice.
No,
So
yeah, that I see. I mean, I know like the correct safe play always is to bring in Tunic, right? But I do agree, like, because if he's on the Bullander list, like I even noticed that playing Azalea, like I usually sat out all my D reacts against Icelander, but lately I've been like, no, I wish I had those because they're actually, especially early game, they're looking for those value attacks like Fendel's Fighting Spirit and Wounding Bull, and having that extra block's actually pretty nice.
if they play Scar for a Scar and Wounding Bull, or Scar for a Scar and an E Strike for 7 or Fendel's Fighting Spirit, that's a relevant turn.
Mm-hmm.
That's significant damage. You can't just ignore that,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
right?
so looking into it, you obviously run a good set of blues here. I mean, we're looking at around 20 blues in the deck. Is that kind of like the standard, or is it a little bit more or less? Did you tech for ice a little bit more, or would you say that's kind of like the normal blue count?
That's the normal blue count. I'm on
Mm-hmm.
21, I think.
21. Okay.
I think I'm on 21. The standard is between 18 and 22, just
Mm-hmm.
depending on personal preference. Um, a lot of it should be go again. Quicksilvers, hit and runs, precision press, or Warrior's Valor should basically always be in there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it my yellows and blues are nothing special at all.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that's a little different is multiple copies of Iron Song Determination, which is a 0 cost that gives +1 and dominate to your weapon.
Mm-hmm.
Most people are off that because why? It's not relevant all that often. On turn 1, however, it's insane because it almost guarantees you a counter. And keeping that tempo is really much where I want to be. So
Yeah, and I mean, if you can combine it with glistening steel blade off of blue as well, like you're pretty
yep.
much like that's pretty much automatic counters unless they have a fridge somewhere. So, no, that card's really good. One thing I've noticed, I mean, as an aggro player too, is Twinning Blade is obviously an MVP in the deck because you block out and all of a sudden you hit me with Twinning Blade, and then you, at the very worst, keep your counters on your Dawn Blade, or worse than that. Um, how do you feel about the reprise mechanic? Obviously, a lot of her cards have reprise, but is there a ratio to that, or a way you kind of do you sub stuff in and out, or is it kind of just you have to have a feel for it? It's kind of like a gut check on when to use reprise cards and when not to.
I've used Dorinthea in the past. It's kind of just there's a suite of good attack reactions that I've always used,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they've kind of you just play it. I don't know, with enough reps, you play it when it feels right.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that said, Puncture, the new one,
Mm-hmm.
does not have reprise. It's just a +3 with piercing.
Oh, that's right. Yep.
Um, so that's quite nice. Um, but Reprise did some work this weekend. I think the MVP attack reaction this weekend was Stroke of Foresight. Being
Mm-hmm.
able to just filter a card off the top felt so nice all weekend,
Mm-hmm.
um, and into just about everything.
Okay.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
one funny play I kind of want to talk about, if that's cool.
Yeah. No. Of
I
course.
was playing against Lexi in top 8, and I realized I had an attack reaction in Arsenal. I had a Stroke of Foresight in Arsenal. And I realized the game was close enough that it was going to come down to that, like, both of us are playing with 2 card hands and blocking kind of a scenario,
Mm-hmm.
which is not really where you want to be ever. Like,
Mm-mm.
just in games, that always feels awkward. So at one point, he blocked out my Dawn Blade it was swinging for 5, and I let the counters get removed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and in doing so, or it was 4. I don't know. I don't remember
Yeah.
details.
No.
I let the counters get off of my Dawn Blade, and then the next turn I just swung for 3, and he didn't block it, and I didn't do anything. So he thought the card in my arsenal was an Iron Song response. which does nothing if you don't have Reprise.
Mm-hmm.
And I held it in Arsenal, even when there were times when I should have used it, used the Stroke of Foresight for the longest time, just so when it got to that low health scenario and he thought he could get away with a no block,
Mm-hmm.
I would still have the +3. And that's how I ended up sneaking him for the game. Was just me realizing that he thought that I had an Iron Song response in Arsenal, and then just sitting on the Stroke of Foresight for way longer than I should have. There's a weird beauty to like inefficient plays that make your opponent play differently,
Mm-hmm.
right? Plays that on paper are objectively bad, but or objectively suboptimal,
Mm-hmm.
but then get good as your opponent plays around what's not there.
No, yeah,
So
that makes sense. I mean, it's similar to Katsu. Like I've had times where I go Arsenal or Hurricane technique, something that's not even doesn't matter, and then
never ill.
I'll play a snatch, and they'll look at me and they'll block it for like 4, and I'll sit there and I'll act like I'm contemplating or whatever, right? Or block it for 6, and then I'm like, all right, pass, and like just to make them think I have a razor, and then they start the late game they start over blocking. So it's the same concept, definitely. So it definitely makes sense, especially against like Alexi or Icelander, someone who can disrupt you. Being able to get them to not make their most optimal play for people that want to value block is very important. For newer players, kind of going into Dorinthea, as we kind of get to the end here, like someone's in Dorinthia, maybe they got the initial battle box set, or maybe they just have kind of interesting stuff other than the equipment suite, which for anyone watching that's doing Flesh and Blood, this is kind of like where most of your money is going to be. What are some of the key cards they should pick up? And then maybe what are some cards that they could do without, honestly, that might save them a little bit on budget if they're trying to build a list similar to this?
If you want to build Dorinthea, go find all the cards that have Dorinthea on the card art, and you're probably pretty set, if I'm being honest.
That's a good point.
Hunt the Quicksilver is probably the best card in the deck.
Mm-hmm.
Card's amazing. Twinning Blade is very necessary for decks that can block very well. Singing Steel Blade is her other specialization, and that one's very strong.
Mm-hmm.
Glistening Steel Blade's kind of falling out of favor. So that's a relatively pricey card. It's probably $20 to $25. I'm not sure. I've had mine for 100 years and don't check the price. And then you want the attack reactions. You want Route. You want Overpower. Out for Blood is a big one. Iron Song response. The attack reactions were purely flavor. It was me to fill out the deck the way I want, with matchups that I wanted to hit. They weren't necessary for the deck. So if you're looking to build Dorinthea, don't feel like you need to drop money on Command and Conquerors. My Discord's going crazy right now.
No, you're good.
Don't feel like you have to get Command and Conquerors. Don't feel like you have to get Enlightened Strikes. Just worry about swinging your Dawnblade and then swinging with an attack reaction to try and go over the top and get as many counters as you can.
Sweet. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you, Morty or Kyle. I'll be linking his deck list down below, y'all, and you'll be looking out for him on the Pro Tour. Do you have any more upcoming PQs or any final thoughts you want to say before we head on out?
Maybe I'm considering going to Houston this weekend. I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana. Dox me. I'm thinking of going to Houston this weekend for a ProQuest.
Mm-hmm.
Just to gold foil hunt.
Yeah.
I top 1 and I top 8. Like, why not go, right? But I don't know. I haven't decided yet. We'll see how this week at work goes.
Yeah. I had a buddy who got second, well, not buddy, someone I know, who got second at one of our PQs, and that PQ had a Rosetta Thorn gold foil, and then the PQ he got the next day was Coda Frost, so, that he won. So he's like super upset about. He's like, nope, I'm going to another one. Fuck this. So
I was on Twitter all morning, and I was seeing Metacarpus nodes and Mask of the Pouncing Lynx and Crater Fists. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be great. And I opened it was a Coda Frost. It was like the most giddy, excited disappointment. Like, this golden thing is mine, but it's garbage. So I've sold it. It's gone forever.
No, it's all right. You do what you want with it. No, you do what you want with it. We had Clark, who's been on Bravo forever. He got Anthos or whatever for his gold foil, which is like the most fitting thing in the world. But some people are getting unlucky with them. But regardless, it's the win that counts more than anything. But yeah, Morty, thank you so much for joining us and kind of giving us a little background on the deck. If you are watching, you can check the deck list out below. I'll do a public version here on the channel. We'll also be doing some other deck lists with Katsu and Fi from PQ winners here later in the week, so check those out. If you want to, join the Discord down below. Whether you're a Ninja player or not, doesn't matter. We talk, have a good community, over 300 members now. And yeah, we'll see y'all next time on TCG Talk. Thank y'all so much. Have a good day.